So let me see yours first.
All right, what?
I know nothing about this.
It's in a sketchy bottle with no label.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right. Oh, real generous. So this is like half a shot of water. Is that what this is?
There's water in it.
Oh, oh, whoa. What is this?
So a friend of mine got this for me.
Oh, I don't know.
Ooh,
I don't know, man. That's not bad. It smells like Everclear, but it's got more of a. It's almost got
it's
like
a
a.
lot smoother than I expected.
Yeah,
it to
it's
be.
almost got like a good agave tequila taste to it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
What is this supposed to be?
All I know is it is moonshine that was brought into the country quite a few years ago from, I believe it was Yugoslavia. He said.
It doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, no, it's he's had it a while. This was brought in from a family member of his.
How old is this? That's
don't know.
really loud.
Yeah, it is.
All right. How old is this?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. It's fantastic though.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's it. That is really interesting. So is that what this episode's about? We're going to talk about Yugoslavia and Yugo vehicles and all that, or what?
I mean, we could. I know nothing about Yugoslavia other than it's no longer. I imagine it's like that movie Terminal with Tom Hanks.
Oh, where somebody was in the middle of the air and yeah.
No, he lands in an airport. It was called Terminal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I
like the
remember it.
country he was in was like at war and then didn't exist, so his passport wasn't valid. So they couldn't send him anywhere, but they couldn't let him into the U.S.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was based on a true story.
I don't remember, but it was a good movie.
Yeah,
It was a good movie.
Well, I think we got some other stuff we can talk about for a second here too.
I like it. Let's do it.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
So first and foremost, I think we owe all of our listeners a little bit of an apology. Kind of scheduling got away from us this weekend, and we weren't able to get something uploaded in time for our Monday release as usual. So you're getting this a couple days late. Sorry about that. But we got one out this week anyways. So
I'm glad you just kind of rolled right in because I was going to start out with singing in this episode.
Oh, well, by all means, Keith, have at it.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Codette.
The Love Shack. It's a little old place where we can get. Actually, that's not where I went. I wrong. I was gonna say.
You've had one sip of this. What?
No, I was gonna start out with. I got me a Chrysler. It's as big as a whale, and we're about to set sail. The Love Shack. Blah blah blah. All this and that.
That's not really a shack, though.
I got me a Chrysler. It seats about 20. So hurry up and bring your jukebox money.
That's a pretty good capacity for that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't think any of these folks do.
Well, I mean, on last episode, I talked about the sailboat tattoo, or was that 2 episodes ago? I don't even remember now.
I don't know.
Okay, so
Excuse me.
told the story of Grandma's sailboat vision, the tattoo, all this and that. I'm not sure if I'm repeating myself week to week back. I'm slammed at work again, so sleep deprived. In fact, last night I came home from work, went right to bed, woke up, finally caught up on some sleep, but I'm still a little sleep deprived.
I know the feeling.
So, I'd gotten the tattoo, and then immediately after the tattoo, I had a book suggestion in my Audible account. And I listen to Audible books all the time, audiobooks. Mm-hmm. I read too, but driving to work, the radio and the excursion doesn't work anymore. So,
Oh, bummer.
and it goes back and forth. You've known that for years. It's got that weird short thing.
Is it still doing just that, or is it still?
Yeah, it's still
is it
doing
like
just that.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
I get to listen to like half a song, and then it just goes away. So I don't know how the end of Love Shack ends. It's just, I only hear the first half of that.
You lucky SOB.
Anyways, so I had listened to I had a suggestion, and I'm sure it's the old, as we've talked before on the show, about how you get basically Alexa and Facebook listening to you all the time?
Oh, so we had a whole conversation. We're total side story here. We had a conversation at work about that last week with a customer, and the guy starts telling me about these hot chocolate bombs.
Oh, they're good.
So it's like a bath bomb, but it's a hot chocolate.
I know,
one
there's a
that
couple
like
upstairs.
marshmallows. Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe you can talk Stephanie out of one.
Maybe we'll come back to that.
All right.
But we spent like 5 minutes talking about this at work, and I intentionally took my phone out. Like by 9 p.m. tonight, I would like to see suggestions for hot chocolate bombs or balls or whatever you call them. I want to see what happens with it. And I have not yet seen anything in any of my Facebook ads or anything.
Well, because if you're intentional about it, they don't want you to do it because they don't want you to know.
So what I should say, and I'm going to get it and say it in front of my phone just in case, I do not want to see anything about hot chocolate bombs. I got to say it that way, right?
Just keep saying the word bomb again and again and again and again, and then
I'm sure I'm already on a watch list.
Yeah, you already work at a gun store, and you're always using the word bomb.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we deal with explosives there. It's legitimate. It's a training facility.
Yeah,
They deal with rockets at the Georgia location.
perfect. I didn't know they had a Georgia location.
700 some odd acres.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, they do like tanks, rockets, all kinds of explosives down there. That one's
right.
not open to the public. It's like a military training.
Field trip.
100%.
So yeah, so in my Audible account, I get this suggestion for a book called Swell, and it's by Captain Liz Clark. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's got the cover art on it is a young lady, probably early 20s, apparently free diving. She's got a weight belt on, but no tanks, and she's standing on, maybe about 20 feet of water, 25 feet of water, and you can see a sailboat behind her just kind of floating. And of course, that caught my attention. I said, "Oh, what's this all about?" So I read the little thing, and it's about a young girl or lady that travels. Not all the way around the world, but spends about a decade traveling all over, mostly the South Pacific, in a 40-foot sailboat that she calls Swell. I said, well, this might be interesting to listen to. Because, I love travel adventure stories. I'm always reading them. So I listened to it. And it honestly, it's one of the best books that I have listened to. I didn't read a hard copy, but one of the best books I've listened to in a long, long time. And I love it too on my Audible account when I listen to books that are narrated by the author as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So this one, I'd say only about a third of them are, maybe even less than
I
that.
wonder if there's any copies of Lord of the Rings that way.
With J.R.R. Tolkien?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Well, but anyways.
I'm pretty sure he's long dead.
Yeah, he is. But Liz Clark, she narrated herself, so you get to hear her actual voice and you hear her actual emotion in the book telling her story. And so I listened to it. It's about an 8-hour book, something like that. Listened to it over the period of maybe 4 or 5 days back and forth on my commute to work. And I just finished it up last Saturday. I was out working in the yard, and I had my earbuds in, and I was finishing the book because I wanted to see how it ended.
Yeah.
I didn't want to wait till the next work day, and really loved the book. Great book. I'd highly recommend it for anyone who's into outdoor adventure stuff, female power, whatever you want to call it, because she does this on her own. If you want to listen to something about sailing, boating, adventure in the South Seas, highly recommend it. Great book. So like I said, Captain Liz Clark, and she wrote the book called Swell. Well, anyways, and she even has a website, swellvoyage.com, I think is what it's called.
Nice.
You can Google it and you can find out. But really, she's got a blog and everything on there.
Cool.
So I just finished it, and about an hour later, I headed out to one of the guys I work with. He was having his housewarming party out at his place. So he's having a bonfire housewarming party. So I'm out at this bonfire, and we're having some beers, and we're standing around, and there's like maybe a dozen people from my job and other people too that I knew, but we're all hanging out. Well, one of the guys that I work with is out there, and now he didn't know anything about me getting the tattoo. Didn't know anything about me listening to this book, and he just randomly blurts out at me. He goes, "Hey, you live on the water, right?" I says, "Yeah." And he goes, "You need a boat." I says, No, I don't need a boat. I said, I've had boats. In fact, we even joked, I think in the last episode, it's a hole in the water. You throw money in.
Yep.
And he's like, well, no. He's like, you really do. He says, I said, well, what kind of boat are you talking about? just curiosity, my interest was piqued. And he says, well, how about a sailboat? And I said, oh, man, I've always wanted to kind of learn how to sail, but I don't really know anything about sailing.
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's right behind the barn here. I've been storing it here at this guy's house, the guy that we had the housewarming party for. And he goes, he wants it out of here. So we walk around the corner, and he's got a late 70s, 22-foot Chrysler sailboat sitting there.
That's awesome.
And he says to me, he goes, if you want it, it's yours.
Right.
And it's on the trailer, boat on the trailer. It was in the water last year, brand new sails.
Nice.
Beautiful looking boat. Nice cabin on it, sleeps like 5 people. Tight together, but 5 people is what it's rated for. And his wife pipes up and says, well, it's got a little outboard in the back that's kind of new. And she says, I've got a standing offer for $400 on the outboard. You can have the boat and trailer, but you can't. He inherited the thing from his father-in-law.
Gotcha.
And she goes, but if you want the motor, it'll be $400. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to give him the $400. I said, to me at this point, fate was calling me on the sailboat thing. Because it's like the sailboat tattoo, the sailboat book. And then all of a sudden, I'm offered a free sailboat. And I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, this is probably a bad idea, but... So I gave him the $400 for the motor, got the boat and trailer for free, hauled it home. I've been cleaning it up a little bit. I am going to probably take some sailing lessons through there's about 5 or 6 places within 100 miles of here that offer sailing lessons. And so I'm probably going to do that and learn how to sail. See if I like it. I don't know. But it's another off-road adventure of sorts. But
oh, for sure.
Now, you did hear me right, folks, though. I said Chrysler sailboat. We didn't even realize... I had heard that I knew Chrysler made outboard motors years ago, but I didn't know they made entire boats.
They made planes too.
They made planes?
Yeah, planes or jets or something.
What, during World War II?
I don't remember. I
know they made
them.
engines for airplanes in World War II, but
see if I can find one real quick.
Chrysler had been involved in all sorts of stuff, and this is not going to be a Chrysler episode. We're just kind of mentioning this, and I think maybe in the future, if anybody has any interest, and you can always mention it on 4x4 Talk or something, if you want us to do more of like a, hey, these are some of the odd things that the big 3 built, or even other ones like International building refrigerators or Ford building tractors, General Motors building refrigerators and appliances. We'll get into an episode like that, but I want to do a little more research before we do that. And of course, we can add that Chrysler built sailboats at one time, which is just an odd thing that happened. So, pardon me there. This stuff is clearing me out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yes,
I own a Chrysler for the first time in a long time. But interestingly, Chrysler, as far as I know, never built a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Of course, Chrysler's the header for Jeep and Dodge and Plymouth and all of that. But I don't think they ever actually built a 4x4 Chrysler of any sort, except for maybe the minivan, which would be all-wheel drive, the Chrysler Town and Country.
I'll look later. I know it's out there, though.
But, so yeah, no, man, that was... just kind of a little adventure that I had going on there.
Fun.
But, I've been thinking about what we wanted to talk about in this episode, and I know neither you or I had really put much thought into that because we've had a very, very busy
week. We had
week.
much time.
No, exactly.
I know we met up, saw that band 86 Noodles there Friday night. That was a blast as always.
Yeah, that was definitely very interesting.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting time. But
it was definitely a good time.
That was fun doing.
And then I rolled right into a video shoot on Saturday and Sunday with a different band, rock band for a cover song they're doing that can't tell you what it is. Well, I can tell you off the air, but wow, that's gonna be cool.
Well, I'm excited to hear it. Excited to hear it.
Had a friend's bachelor party Saturday night, just some beers and a lot of alcohol in the garage down at my buddy's house. Yeah. Well, Jason's house. His older brother, Robbie's getting married. Yeah. Congratulations to he and Carrie. I don't think they listen, but I'll say it anyway.
Congratulations, very much so. I know I had the invite to get out there, but by the time I was free that day, you guys were going to go bar hopping. And
we didn't end up doing that. We just stayed there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
okay.
Jason and one of his uncles went for a little bit, and then they came right back.
Gotcha. Well, that day I did happen to finally do something 4-wheel drive related, which has been way overdue. Although, unfortunately, it was not some really cool wheeling or anything like that. The Excursion has 4-wheel drive again.
Oh, I didn't remember that it was out.
Well, it had gone out on me, I want to say December or January. I was at a job site, and I was pulling my trailer out of the job site, and it was icy, snowy, and stuff like that. And I had put it in four-wheel drive to get a little bit of traction, and all of a sudden I heard a loud kind of pop and bang in the front. I said, oh, man, and lost four-wheel drive. I had done some preliminary playing around. I unlocked the hubs, thrown it into four-wheel drive, drove forward. One of my buddies looked underneath it at work. Yeah, your drive shaft's spinning. So we knew it was engaging the front axle.
Maybe we did talk about this.
Yeah, I think I did. You know, locked the hubs, and it was not engaging. But yet both the front axle shafts seemed to be turning. So it was kind of a little bit of a mystery there. Well, it was time to rotate the tires in the Excursion because I was starting to get a little bit of cupping on the front, which the Fords are famous for as the ball joints wear and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, the other day it was really nice. Sunday, I was like, I'm going to take and I'm going to rotate the tires around. So I put it up on the jack stands, and I go to rotate the tires, and I, front to back, and while I'm at it, I'm like, you know what? I'm wondering if it's got a blown out lockout, the worn lockouts that I've got on it, which I've never, knock on wood, I have never blown out a worn lockout before. So I'm thinking there's no chance it's this. So I take I figured a good way of testing this was because I have an unlocked front end. I have a, completely open front end. And so I put a crowbar through the U-joint on the axle shaft to bind it up against the C, and put the hub in lock on the driver's side, and I go to turn the tire, and bam, 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 I can't get it to turn at all. So I said, okay, that one's locked. Unlocked it. It was working. Go around to the passenger side, and I do the same thing. Well, it seemed like it was holding, but then all of a sudden, if I pushed it, I could hear click, 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 and it would just push past. So I had no traction on the passenger side. And I'm like, oh, man, what's going on? So I pulled the lockout hub off, and everything looked good. And I'm looking down inside, and I'm thinking maybe I broke a stub shaft. Nope, stub shaft's good. And I'm looking at all. I'm like, this is really screwy. I can't figure out why the lockout's not engaging here. So I get out the brake clean, and I'm like cleaning all the parts up really good because, I've got...
got the grease in there and everything.
It's not highly greased. You're not supposed to grease the heck out of them, but it's got some light grease in it and stuff. Road dirt, and off-road stuff. And that thing's been submerged and all sorts of stuff before. So
God knows what.
Exactly. So I pull apart. Well, all of a sudden, I'm looking at the way the worn lockout there on that style has got a female gear and a male gear. And when you turn on the lockout, it pushes the, I think it's actually the female gear gets pushed onto the male gear. And I go, all right, let me see how that's engaged. Well, all of a sudden I go try to put them together, and they wouldn't go together. Just would not go in the gears. I'm like, what is going on here? Because that was the first indicator, though. When I took the lockout out, the snap ring that holds the back side of that assembly was off and sitting inside the hub.
Oh.
So I'm thinking, it just came out. Well, so then I go to put it all back together, and it still wasn't working. So then I took it apart again, and I'm looking at it, and like I said, the gear won't engage. So I'm going, what's going on? So I brake clean. I got 15-20 vision. I have really great vision, but I'm looking at this thing. Finally, I kind of start running my finger across the teeth, and there's just a little bit all the way around, like a knurled edge all the way on the end of it. So it's almost like the lockout was just slightly engaged, and then it like popped and it stripped the end of the gears just a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I could go buy the lockouts, but I mean, you're talking $150, $200. So I got in there with a stone and a Dremel bit that I actually chucked up in a drill for the speed. My Dremel's broken right now. And I sat there and I cleaned off the end of the teeth and all the gear, and lo and behold, engages, put it all back together. Now I got four-wheel drive again. So it was a pretty simple fix. I probably should eventually replace those lockouts because...
It'll be fine.
But
live life on the edge, man.
But I did figure out, though, because the Fords have that stupid... the stub shafts are really short on the Super Duty Dana 60s, especially the earlier ones. And they have that... pardon me, that floating bearing that runs on the stub shaft, and it's got like a rubber bushing around it. Well, I couldn't get the lockout to even go back in. It was like it wouldn't even physically go back in because the stub shaft was cocked off to the side a little bit. And I'm like, what's going on here? They're blown. You can literally take the axle shaft up and down a little bit. It's riding loose in there. So I think that might be what caused it as well.
Maybe, yeah.
And so I know I got to do a stub shaft on it eventually as well. I did eventually. I took a pry bar, pulled up on the axle shaft, and I left it because I know that it's kind of like catching and not engaging. I left it engaged on the passenger side.
Gotcha.
So that way, if I have to put it in four-wheel drive right now, I'm just going to lock the driver's side.
Be
And
all
then
set.
I don't. The old white Excursion did the same thing, but it ended up vibrating really bad when they blew out.
Oh.
This one's not vibrating yet, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I mean, if I get a half a mile gallon worse, well, who cares? Whatever it is. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, no, I've been happy that that's working again. I might need it. Hey, speaking of pulling up things, are you able to pull up 4x4 talk right now?
I can pull it up on my phone, yeah.
I know that lately we've had a lot of people that are asking us questions.
I was going to say that.
You were going to bring that up?
Yeah, I just noticed a lot. I noticed there's one, I accidentally just closed it here. Let me find it up. I was going to give him a shout out. He sent a message to us asking about the, was it the Spartan locker in the front of his XJ Dana 30? I just got about the track bar from me, he mentioned in there.
Excellent question. And actually, rolling that on to talking to the Excursion here.
Brett Dutcher,
Okay.
if I'm saying your name right, I
Dutcher,
hope so.
Duche, something like that. Yeah, we're not sure. But
Ducher. We'll go
Ducher,
with
all
that.
right. So,
Let's call him Brent.
well, Brett,
Brent,
thank
not
you for
Brett.
sharing
My
with
bad.
us. And but yes, the lockers in the front. That's actually a great topic to talk about right now because I'm running around with one locked hub on the Excursion. This is something that is a pet peeve of mine like crazy. There are people out there, again and again and again, that try to claim that having a locking hub, a selectable locking hub on a solid front axle, that if you run around on the street with them locked, that you're going to burn up your front axle or your four-wheel drive.
No.
Exactly. Exactly. But and this is the thinking behind it. We may have listeners out there who are still figuring out about four-wheel drive stuff, and that's why they listen to us. You can drive around with your hubs locked on the front of a four-wheel drive vehicle, 99.9% of them, all the time, no repercussions. It's not going to, theoretically, yes, your U-joints in the front axle shaft are spinning all the time. Now,
There's a hair of gas mileage, but even negligible amounts at that rate.
negligible amounts there, and because there's actually no force on the U-joints, the U-joints are not going to wear out any faster.
No.
You're going to go through 3 sets of rear U-joints on your rear drive shaft before you ever put the fronts in.
Yeah.
And, people say, well, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? Because the factory, as in that Jeep XJ, they don't have selectable locking hubs on them.
No.
Nor does your TJ.
No.
The front axle shafts are always spinning.
Yeah.
They're constant engagement, and they've been making since day one with four-wheel drive vehicles that have all of the early ones were fully flanged in the front, and the axle shaft spun. When you put it in four-wheel drive is when you're actually sending the power to the front axle.
Yeah.
The selectable locking hubs were invented to hopefully get you a little better mileage and wear and tear and this and that, but you can drive around with your selectable locking hubs on a axle as long as you want.
Say the only time, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but the only time you might have an issue is if you had like a spool up there, wouldn't it?
Yes. If you had a spool, or which there's no factory vehicles that come with a spool.
No.
So if you had a spool,
Courtesy of Mr. Lincoln or Mr. Miller, you can make one.
or a welded front end, then your steering is going to be absolutely miserable.
Or non-existent.
Exactly. Now, a number of people have said, well, if I put a locker in the front, I got to have selectable hubs. No, you don't. Because
Same thing applies still.
the locker doesn't engage until you put power, to it. Whether it's a mechanical locker or it's a selectable. Now, selectable, obviously, you're telling it when to lock.
Yeah.
But a mechanical locker, I fully don't understand how it works. I think it has something to do with the force of momentum as the power comes in on the drive shaft. Like it's like a centrifugal force.
I don't even remember anymore. I used to know.
I think it's a centrifugal force. I think it also depends on the locker too, because some of them are clutch style clutch plates where they slip slightly. Other ones like the Spartan and the what would be the quick lock, I think it's called, and
what is it, like Richmond lockers? There's
the lunchbox lockers.
Yeah, there's 4 or 5 different companies that make them. A couple of them are all one company now, but with like 4 different names it's gone through over the years.
It's got teeth and pins that basically click together, ratchets together.
Ratcheting locker. Name.
But yeah, no, I years ago I had that 97 XJ, the green one that I'd love to find someday and maybe buy back if I ever found it.
That would be sweet.
It was factory 5-speed, which is rare for the 97 to 01s.
Yes.
And I love that little Jeep, but you know the motor was completely worn out. It had almost no compression when I sold it. It had like 280,000 miles on it, but
we could build you up a real good block for that.
Well, I know. But I had put, back when the thing had about 130,000 miles on it, I wanted to lock it front and rear. And
I remember that.
I bought 2, actually I bought a Spartan for the front, and I had bought a Lock-Right for the rear.
Yep.
The Spartan came in, put it in, went beautifully, went to go put the Lock-Right in the rear, did not realize I had the Chrysler 8 1/4 rear end, thought I had the Dana 35. I had ordered one for Dana 35. Ended up returning the one for the Dana 35. At the time, the Lock-Right for the 8 1/4, I think, was like 400 something bucks, and I was like, versus the 200 that I was paying for the Lock-Right for a Dana 30. I says, or Dana 35. I said, I'll just, do something later, maybe do an 8/8 swap or something. Never got around to it.
I remember that you started. No, you got the parts to do it, and then I ended up buying the axle from you.
Correct. Well, but yeah, with the locker in the front of it, I had the Spartan in there. Now, so I was always locked front, open rear, and I drove that as a flower delivery vehicle for my main job for probably about a year.
I remember that Jeep, man. I like that thing.
And, it would, when you did a hard turn, not in 4-wheel drive, hard turn with a little bit of speed to you, you'd get kind of a ratcheting that you'd hear in the front. You hear click, 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 and that was it. And It was just hopping a little, but it was harmless. And, but I tell you what, when I took that thing, because I had the last set of tires I had on it were 31 BFG all-terrains. I had gone from like 27s to 29s, and then it was either 30 or 31s. I think I had 31s on it. I never lifted it, and everybody told me they wouldn't fit, and there was a little bit of rubbing, but not terrible.
Yeah, just turn enough, driving a circle for a little while, a little self-clearance.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I drove it on those, and I took it on a couple of not super hardcore off-road trips, but I went up and ran like around
Mount. Didn't you do one of the chili runs with that one year?
I don't think I did a chili run with it, but I did do a number of. I went up to St. Helens Recreation Area, I think, with it twice up near Grayling. Yeah, did some winter runs or snow. I did a snowfari and
that was it. Yeah, snowfari.
Yeah, I did a snowfari and then another one that was just to get together with friends. It might have been a snowfari pre-run. Yeah, it operated great.
Nice.
And that thing would just dig in the front, and that's actually where I started to become a believer. After having a number of rigs over the years that were locked in the rear, open front, and then that was my first rig that was locked front, open rear, and I saw how well that did on like Michigan hill climbs on sand and snow. I would say if you're gonna put a locker in your vehicle and you can only afford one to start with the front. I really would. I mean, that just, at least for that Jeep, at least that XJ platform, having that front locker in there, it just dug. I mean, it was what you point and steered wherever you were going to go.
Nice.
You also got a lot of weight with that 4.0 up front.
Yeah.
So probably helped with that front traction. But I don't know. In your XJ, are you doing dual lockers, or are you just doing the?
So it's got the limited slip in the rear, open up front right now.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have any immediate plans just because of the cost to do anything up front yet. Eventually, I'd like to do the Detroit True Tracks in it, though.
Okay.
Just when I get the money and the time. It's in the works. That's down the line. That got bumped way down the priority list for now.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Well, yeah, this is like tequila. It's got a weird.
A little bit of a after kind of.
I don't know what that
hangs
is.
in the back of your mouth there.
So.
To answer one of the questions too, somebody was mentioning about
the
steering in there.
I don't. Well, here's the deal. I I was trying to think of an engineering standpoint from that. I'm not an engineer.
I could see it when it's engaged potentially being a problem, because I know in the XJs those front tie rods are inherently weak. They're very thin tubular steel. So I could see maybe when turning, you could get some flex in them.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you're doing rocks or doing something.
That'd be the only thing I could think there'd be an issue there.
The question was, should they upgrade the steering because there's a locker in the front?
I don't see any necessarily inherent reason to do it.
I don't either.
That being said, like one of the other guys mentioned, I'm not going to look it up. I already closed it. One of the other guys mentioned about the V8 Grand Cherokee steering. That is a direct bolt-in for the Cherokees. And
it was Tony Velardo mentioned that, didn't he?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, you can swap that in. I did do that on mine. So it's got the V8 Grand Cherokee steering on the XJ.
Is that a direct bolt-in on those?
Yes. Yeah, it's a little bit different to adjust it because there's only, I think it gives you an adjustment sleeve rather than the whole thing being an adjustment sleeve, if I remember this correctly.
Do you have to ream out the knuckles or anything?
Nope. You just, it's a direct bolt-in that respect.
That's not something I was ever familiar with.
Yeah, that was, I don't know if you remember, it was a parts V8 ZJ that you had dropped off at the old house.
Yeah, the red one with the rocker sliders.
Yeah.
I remember every vehicle I've ever owned.
Yeah, I scavenged the steering off of that one.
Yeah, I don't remember you doing that, but
Pretty sure it was yours anyway.
I remember you pulling some parts off it. That was probably what it was.
I'm pretty, I know it was that. I thought I was going to look at doing the hitch, and I don't think I did.
Does it have to be V8 ZJ parts? Or?
It has to be the V8, because the V8, because of the heavier engine, got the heavy steering.
Huh.
So it got the heavy-duty steering rods on it.
But I thought the straight six weighs more than the V8.
I don't remember. I just know what I remember I needed to get the parts from.
Weird.
It might have been a power thing, too, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. But
no, if I'm trying to remember this correctly, it was something I came across. I was looking at doing a high steer conversion at one point in time. Mm-hmm. It's if you get the right-hand drive V8 Grand Cherokee steering, you flip it upside down. You do have to ream the knuckles out for that. But otherwise, it's stock Jeep parts, gives you the high mount steering. You just have to ream it out and then get the little inserts and you're good to go.
I saw, speaking of XJ, ZJ stuff, since we seem to be kind of running down that road today, I saw a post on a different Facebook group yesterday, today, something like that, and somebody had said, is it common, it was in an XJ group, but it's a kind of like open platform XJ group, and there's a bunch of other Jeeps in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And somebody said, is it common when you buy a Jeep to find drug paraphernalia in them?
I mean, depends where you get it from. Generally speaking, I would say no.
Well, a lot of people are saying yes.
Oh.
But
I never have.
I never have. Well, no, I found weed in a couple of vehicles I bought.
I found an ultra rare socket, though, in the Grand Cherokee. I parted out.
10 millimeter?
10 millimeter.
Oh, nice.
Snap-on.
Ooh.
Black oxide. Deep well.
Oh. That's like $200
like the
socket
Holy
right
Grail.
there. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Snap-on is, that's just the Gucci for mechanics is what that is.
Yeah, I've bought a few of those tools. When I worked at the dealership, we had the Snap-on guy, and he managed to, grab his reins on all of our service guys as well.
Uh-huh.
But we all wrench on our own stuff.
Yeah.
And I will say this, the best investment I have ever made in tools was buying the Snap-on electrical tools. So the strippers, the crimpers, that set that they sell, oh my God.
Those are pretty good. I'll give you that. I actually have a pair of
itself.
I have a pair of the
dozens
wire
times
strippers.
over, yes.
So back to the question about finding the drug paraphernalia.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I was going to answer it, but then I didn't have time. But basically, I'll answer it right here. I think it depends on the series of the Jeep that you get.
Okay.
So follow me here.
I was to say, I'm very curious to hear the reasoning on this one.
So if you're getting, pardon me, if you're buying, let's just say used Wrangler. I would say that the chances are very low to find drug paraphernalia in a used Wrangler.
I would agree.
And my reasoning behind that is
Rust
because
holes, it falls out.
there's that, and because Wranglers cost the owners so much money, both in the purchase price and in maintenance and upkeep, that they can't afford drugs.
That's fair. I mean, look at me.
Okay.
And I have 3 Jeeps.
If you're buying an XJ, I think it's probably more common in an XJ to get a bunch of Busch Light cans in the back of it.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it. I'm just saying.
You're making fun of us to drink Busch Light?
A bunch of Busch Light cans, and maybe you might find some roaches or something underneath the seat, and not the cockroach type. So I think there's a good chance of that with an XJ because, just kind of the laid back, quasi hillbilly lifestyle going on there. The ZJs.
I mean, I know some people. Okay.
The ZJs do seem to come out of the hood more than anything. So I think the ZJs is where you're going to find, the crack pipes and the needles and the stuff like that, because you can still to this day buy an old ZJ for about $600 all day long.
True. I traded a case of beer for one once. Drove it home.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah.
I bought 2 ZJs in my life, one running and driving one for $400 and one parts one for like $150.
Nice.
So
yeah, I traded a case of Bud Light for this one.
Yeah.
Drove it home. It was less than a mile down the road. I found $25 in returnable, in change in there, and like $4 worth of returnables.
Yeah.
All the guy wanted back was his sound system and his battery. So.
His sound system. You see, there you go. Exactly.
He was a real good guy. Shout out to Rob. I know you're kind of no longer with us, but I miss you, buddy. You're cool guy. Anyways.
I knew a guy that used to do an annual off-road trip up north, and he had one rule. He some of them are like no whining, bring your own food, no drinking on the trails, whatever, which are all good rules. But he had one rule for his off-road trips: it was no CJs.
That's awesome.
And it was tongue in cheek because he had one, and he was just like. He had to be the only one or something. I don't know what it was, but
that's awesome.
There's no ZJs. But ZJs do kind of get the weird rap.
Short end of the stick.
Yeah, they do. They're basically a fat XJ.
Short. They're short and fat.
Yeah, they're short and fat. They're a short, fat XJ. They're, they're that girl that you second choice for the prom. They're just like.
Oh boy!
I don't get it. I mean, I love the fact you get a V8 with a ZJ. There was a guy on one of the Jeep pages I was on the other day, and he paid $800 for a rust-free, or $600, I think, he said, for a rust-free 98 5.9 limited.
Oh,
and
he stole it.
Oh, I know.
He stole it.
And he's like, "Did I do okay?" And we're like,
You did terrible. You made a horrible decision. Tell you what, I'll give you $850.
They only made like 15,000 of those things.
Yeah, very, very little. They made very, very few of the ZJs also with an AX15.
Oh, I know. That was only like the first 2 or 3 years too.
Yeah, stupid rare. And I haven't found any documentation to support this. A very, very good friend of mine who's very deep into the Jeep world as well has told me that some of them had a front Dana 44.
I've heard that rumor before too, and
I've seen no evidence of it, no proof.
I don't think it's true. Yeah,
I've dove fairly deep into a lot of the rabbit holes on these things. I haven't found or come across anything to indicate that. He was quite insistent. He's seen them and had proof of it. That being said, hell, if I can get one, I'll get it.
The only one that I would think would possibly have that, if you're talking on the ZJs, is, and we'd have to do a ZJ heavy episode.
Yeah, it'll be the ZJ.
Is that there was a diesel overseas version of the ZJ available at one time. Maybe that had a larger front axle.
That could be interesting.
Being a diesel. I don't know. But
we are coming up into the episodes in the 90s here. Maybe we should do a ZJ.
Maybe. ZJ came out, what, 91, I think?
93.
93?
I'm fairly confident it was 93.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll do a
we'll discuss.
Maybe we'll do a ZJ episode at some point. But, so yeah, back to the drugs thing, though, in Jeeps and vehicles like that. Buddy of mine years ago bought a part Suzuki Samurai for his Samurai. Had a little bit of adventure with it. The main reason he bought it, and he lived up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and he bought it downstate, mid-state somewhere, so about 4 or 5 hours from where he lives. Bought it online, and the main reason he bought it is because it had a very rare aftermarket full fiberglass hardtop for it, because the Samurais, the open top ones all came with a cloth top.
Yeah.
But there was a couple companies in the 80s, early 90s that made fiberglass full tops for him, like a Jeep had. He wanted this thing real bad. So he drives down, loads up on his trailer, straps it down all good and everything, drives back to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Gets back home. Nighttime, gets out, goes in the house, whatever. I don't know if he noticed that night or the next morning, but the top was gone.
Oh.
Apparently the top wasn't bolted down.
Oh, no.
So he lost his, and it's somewhere along I-75.
Oh.
Because he actually got a hold, because at first he thought maybe someone stole it, and then he got a hold of the guy, and the guy's like, oh, you didn't strap it down? Like, it was just sitting on there. So yeah, he lost the heart. Hopefully it didn't end up in someone's windshield.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna withhold names just in case.
yeah, exactly.
Well, this is probably past the statute of limitations.
Way
We're fine.
way past. But so anyways, that same vehicle, he started playing around with it. I don't know if it ran or not, but he went and he sat in it, and all of a sudden he felt something sharp in his butt, and he's like, and he jumps out real quick, and there's a needle sticking out of the seat.
Oh.
And so he freaks out.
Yeah.
And strips out the interior, and the entire interior of this thing, he found like 30-something needles.
Holy hell.
Now, he doesn't know if they were drug needles or if it was somebody that was diabetic or what, which you'd think somebody diabetic would be a little bit better with.
One would hope.
One would hope. You just don't know. He did go get tested multiple times over about a year process, and everything came back clean, and he never had any side effects or anything, but he was freaking out on it.
Because, I would have been too.
You know, but yeah, so that's something, I guess, if you're buying a vehicle out of the hood or even just anywhere, it's something to think about.
Put a heavy duty mat down before you sit in it.
I mean, yeah, you know, and you know, I've can you imagine being at a junkyard and pulling in junkyard vehicles all the time? The stuff that must come in those.
I've talked to a few people, yeah. They get a lot of guns, actually, that turn up in there. Generally, from what I've talked to a few yards about, in that instance, they'll try and contact the owner first. If they can't contact the owner, they contact the police department.
Oh, sure they do.
They have on a few of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know a yard that we've talked to, I've talked to him before, too, about the same thing.
Okay.
Because they do like the accident recovery stuff, or they get ones from accidents.
Oh, okay.
And those ones that end up staying there, I mean, everything's documented. They have to go through and.
Yeah,
I'm
but if
sure
someone
there's a lot of things that don't get reported.
If somebody tows a '74 Dodge van out from the back of their woods in, and there just happens to be something under the front seat of that thing, and the vehicle hasn't ran in 10 years,
they're probably not going to make a phone call.
I mean, they should. They absolutely should.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. That's the responsible thing to do. That being said, we've both been to yards where EPA would have a field day, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I was talking to a yard guy years ago that he used to go through all the cars for the spare change and stuff as they came in. They process the cars. And he was taking, he knew how to tell real gold versus fake gold jewelry. And over the years, he'd found like earrings and some gold chains and things like that in cars. And he was putting them in a peanut butter jar. Okay. And he would just put them in there and rings and stuff like that. And when the peanut butter jar was full, and it was gold, you know, it's pretty hefty, he took it in, and he figured that maybe he was going to get like $500 or whatever. He ended up getting like $12,000. It was like
nice.
Yeah, because he was telling me, it was a friend of mine, and that was the engine for his race car. He's like, he's like, man, I didn't think that was going to be that much, you know, and just, you know.
It's one thing, I've seen a tremendous amount of change in vehicles over the years in the yards. And it's like one of those, I never understood why they never went through.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it adds up without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot to go through and dig through in a lot of these things.
Exactly.
The one I scavenged some parts from an XJ a few weeks ago in the yard, and there's probably $5-6 worth of coins on the floor of that thing. I didn't mess with them. It's one of my own personal rules. I won't take stuff that I'm not there for.
I always hated that too. I was at a yard with a friend of mine back in high school, and we had both gone in with tool bags to grab some stuff off some trucks. I was working on one vehicle, he was working on another.
Yeah.
And we go out, and we both had whatever we'd gone for. I think, if I remember right, I think he'd gone for a headlight assembly or something and maybe a grill. And I'd gone in for some carburetors or something. We're walking out. We're checking out. We go out. We get in his truck. We're driving down the road. And, we're pulling into his place, and he grabs his tool bag and he opens it up and he's like, hey, look what I got. And he opens it up and it's absolutely full of emblems and radio knobs and all that. And I looked right at him and I said, Pat, what the hell, man? I'm not saying a last name, but this guy I haven't talked to in 20 years anyways. And this was actually towards the end of him and I hanging out. And I says, what the hell? I says, you didn't pay for that stuff. You just stole all that. And he goes, well, they weren't going to use it for anything. And I said, well, dude, you took the radio knobs off the radio. That radio, they're not going to sell as easy now because it doesn't have any knobs on it. Yeah. And I said, that other stuff, I mean, they might have gotten $2, $3, $4 for. Yeah. I says, and I knew the yard owner. And I said, I said to him, I said, that guy probably would have given you all of this or maybe said, give me $5 for the whole pile or something. And I really shamed him on it. And I said, it's not my place. I mean, I could have gone back and said something. I said, it's not my place to make this right, but you need to go back and make it right. He never did. And naturally, we hung out a couple times after that, and that was kind of the end of it. But I don't like that.
I've never
That's
been
their
for
bread
that.
and butter.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, just it's a knob. It's a relatively worthless thing. But that knob on that radio makes that radio worth $30, $40. Now it's not worth anything.
Ever since he did that, I've made it a habit that if I go into a yard, even if it's one I know, and I've got a tool bag with me, I'll set it up on the counter, especially if I put something in it. Because sometimes you do. You're like, oh, I got little shit I got to put in there. So
screws or something.
I put it down in. But even if there's nothing in my bag, I'll have my bag open and I'll just set it up on the counter as I'm checking out.
I'll ask. I mean, most of the yards I'm at, they know me now. In the beginning, I've been to yards, no tool bags, no toolboxes because of that. And I've always respected that. I'll go to a yard and, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Mind if I go see if it's there? Yeah, cool. If it's there, I'll come back, says, hey, it's got this. Are you okay, if I take this in the pigtail?
Yeah.
I'm always going to ask. I'm never just going to take something.
No.
For that reason, because, and I've had this also in that same yard that I'm referring to now, actually, I'll go in and I need a pigtail from something. Like, hey, if you have this, how much for just this? I'm one who will go look for those little odds and ends. And if it's not there, it sucks.
Yeah, sometimes it's something that you need. I've done the same. I've gone in and...
I was very fortunate. I forgot to get a pigtail when I did the swap on Pegasus. And I forgot to take the pigtail for the glow plug relay. Well, I sold the rest of that car to another guy in town. Mm-hmm. He got all of his stuff, then he scrapped it. Well, I went to the yard and I was like, hey, I know this thing's probably not sitting around still. I forgot to get this pigtail. I really need this thing to finish my build. Otherwise, I have to completely change the glow plug setup. Can I look around? Yeah, sure, no problem. And says, if you got it, I'm going to bring cutters. What do you want for it? Give me like $5 or something. Cool.
Yeah.
I spent probably an hour and a half looking around for it where they told me it probably was. Couldn't find it. So naturally, I wander over to the Jeeps. I'm looking around there, as I always do. And then there's another section in that yard with all like the foreign vehicles or the weird special stuff, the rare cars that come in there. And I'm walking around and my buddy who went with me goes, hey, there's a Mercedes over here, a black one. I'm like, oh. He goes, yeah, come and look. And I look and he goes, is that it? It's like, holy hell, that's it.
That was the car?
That was my car.
Oh, jeez.
I walk over, pigtail is sitting right tucked up under another wire right where I left it.
Perfect.
My label, I cut it. I walked up and I'm talking to the guy. He's like, I can't believe this was still here. I go to get my wallet out and he's like, I can't either. Just take it, man. You're good. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I'll always, I'll send people there. And I'm always very respectful. I don't make a mess if I'm tearing stuff out or anything. Like I said, I'll only take what I ask permission for.
I've got a problem with that too. I remember just last winter before, I was down at one of the pull your own parts places in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching this guy and he's going around and he's pulling just the weirdest random things off vehicles. And I'm pretty sure it was because he was pulling the pieces to turn around and maybe eBay sell them or something. Because a lot of those pull your own part yards, it was just fine. If that's your business, a lot of those pull your own part yards stuff is dirt cheap. And so if you
There's a few of those in Detroit.
Yeah, if you know that you can pull maybe this computer out of this truck and for $10 and you can sell it online for $50. Well, whatever, you do the footwork, you can do it. Well, this guy was walking around and he had a cordless Sawzall, and when he got to whatever he needed, he was just Sawzalling through dashboards, through whatever. And I'm thinking, how many good parts is he ruining by just taking that extra little bit, instead of taking an extra little time to take things apart? I've made the habit, even at those pull your own part places, if I take something apart, I'll take the screws from the holes or whatever, and I'll just thread them back in.
Yeah. I'll do that to a point.
Or set them right there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll keep them in a pile, or, this visor and these 3 screws, I'll leave that in a pile.
Yep.
Or, this was all the trim stuff, I put it in a pile rather than leave it just wherever, because if someone comes needing trim, there it is. Help out the next guy.
Is what you got to do, man. Yeah. Man, what a weird roundabout of an episode. I do think we need to talk briefly, unless you have something else there. We got some announcements.
None that I can think of. No, I know where you're going with this, so I forgot to remind you of it, but you remembered. So
okay. Folks, big announcement here. Every year you hear us push the Wheels in the Woods Off-Road Vehicle Show. Last year, it was the Wheels in the Woods All Vehicle Show, and it's going to be the same thing again this year. So we are inviting any vehicle that you can bring to this show, car, truck, motorcycle, boat, airplane, whatever. That
would be awesome.
Whatever you can bring. There's no landing strip, so you'll have to figure out how to get it in there. Helicopter, whatever it may be.
You know what? I want to make a personal request. I want to see a helicopter there this year.
I would too. Maybe one of those old Bell gyrocopters from the 60s.
A real helicopter that fits at least one human.
All right. That'd be cool. Wheels in the Woods 2021 is on, and it's going to be Saturday, October 9th. And that is in Clay Township, Michigan. You can find more information very soon at the Mora website, or actually probably more at the Mora Facebook page, which is Museum of Off-Road Adventure. You'll see it around different places. We're going to continue probably every episode from now to October to mention it in some form or another. We are dropping this year the what do they call it? The RC cars.
Yep.
That's simply because our track there was it was too wild for some and too tame for others, and we didn't really get a good mix on that. So, but we're going to continue with the Power Wheels racing for the kids, and we're going to maybe add another event. We're still talking about some things there, but should be a blast. Last year we had a great turnout, and we're hoping for an even better one again this year. So make sure to mark your calendars to be in Michigan Saturday, October 9th, 2021 for Wheels in the Woods. And that'll start about 10 o'clock in the morning is when we usually start every year. But that was the big announcement that I had there, John.
I don't think I got anything else.
You got nothing else, huh?
No, I'm not. I mean, unless I'm forgetting about something. On me.
We have mentioned opening a date here for the museum. We still have not done that, simply because, this is not a political thing or anything like that, but the COVID numbers up, down, all over the place. The things that are going on in Michigan with all the COVID-19 stuff, we've just kind of been cautious over at the museum. And, we are open, but by appointment only right now. So if you're interested in seeing the Museum of Off-Road Adventure, please give us a call, 877-FWD-MORA. We can make an appointment for you to come and check out the museum. As soon as we have an official day that we're open every week, or a couple of days we're open every week, we will announce it here on the podcast and online. But right now, it's still appointment only at the museum. And if you're interested in hearing more about the museum, you can go and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Museum of Off-Road Adventure. So, John, back over to you.
Yep. So also, if you want to interact with some more of either Keith or myself or some of the other fine review folks who listen to our show, go on Facebook and look up 4x4 Talk, 4x4 Talk. A couple quick questions get you on the page. Ask some questions, post some pictures. You want opinions about, do I go with the red one or the blue one? Or, the tall tires or the short tires. Always go tall, by the way. Post your questions there and get some feedback on everybody. We also do have an after show that we do on Patreon, patreon.com/wheelinradio. Accesses those $2 a month will get you all the current shows and everything going on. There are a whole bunch of free ones up there at the moment as well, so take a look at that. If you like what you're hearing, Subscribe. Like I said, it's those $2 a month on that. Of course, if you do like the show and you are still listening this far into it, make sure you hit like and subscribe and leave us a review. You know, we're always looking for reviews. If you something you don't like that we're doing, something you do like, let us know. Always trying to improve the show and just looking for feedback. So let us know what you think. I don't know if you got anything else there, Keith, or...
No, I think for every 5-star review that somebody posts, we are going to do the Jeep entry challenge. You're going to enter your Jeep.
Oh, I'm not.
Feet
That's all
first.
you, buddy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I did see the video. No.
All right.
I don't think I can physically fit through any of my windows. So with that, we'll say thanks for listening and have a good one, everybody.